really look for that advocate and look for time to, hone your skills, as Debbie mentioned. Find out what you're really passionate about, because maybe it's something else that you may want to do and you may have an opportunity to speak with someone about. So really take the time to really figure out your passions. Take the time to figure out, who your mentors are, who your advocates are, stay up on the trends, what's going on, stay abreast of the companies that you're really interested in. What are they doing on their social media? What are they talking about on their blogs, right? Make suggestions, make comments on them. Reach out to people and ask for, a 5-minute chat. So those are some of the things that you really, really could do in this time and really hone on your skills and your opportunities.
Definitely. I would even add in LinkedIn should be your best friend right now.
Absolutely. We definitely will talk about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's the recruiter Bible.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess more leaning into, recent graduates and, young professionals. So what are some things that stand out to you guys on a resume that they can add now for this time?
You want to go first, Deb, or you want me to go?
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Some of the things they can add on there, it's time. Well, I'm a creative recruiter, right? So I'm always going to come from a creative perspective. But you don't have to just be creative to do this. You can definitely add your LinkedIn to your resume. It should be added. Talk about some of the things you've done on the side, some of the things you're doing creatively. You may not be working, but you may be doing something that's volunteering right now that's helping with the whole COVID. You may be mentoring people virtually, or you may be taking lessons, and it could be something as a graphic designer, or you may be honing in on your skills on editing or something of that sort. So those are some of the things that you could be doing right now that you could be adding to your resume. Add a link. As a creative recruiter, I'm always looking for a link. I want to see samples of your work. I want to see things that you've done, even if it's in PR or communications, right? What are you writing? What are you editing? What are you, watching? What are the trends that are important to you? Create a portfolio, create a link that you can add to your resume that may be something that can help stand out to a recruiter or to a hiring manager that may not be something you usually do or usually add or that you've had on your resume in the past.
In addition to that, of course, I would also add, which I think it should already be there, but just to drive home the point of always having some sort of measurable outcomes on your resume, that it shows that you made an impact while currently there or when you were there, so that I can see, I improved X by X amount, or I revamped a particular system, or I volunteered to do such and such in addition to my day-to-day duties. People want to see that you can go above and beyond what's expected of you. It's great to be a good employee, but it's great to be a standout employee,
right,
where people remember you, where you're always visible, you're always present, you're ingrained in the you have a presence, and your resume can bring that to life in a lot of ways. In addition to, like Nikita said, putting on the links. With LinkedIn, you can do a lot, because I look at LinkedIn as a resume for the most part, because that is typically what I would present as an overview of a prospective candidate. So if you have things that a resume can't necessarily speak to, that's a great platform to use that non-traditional content that you can add to LinkedIn, like videos and articles and presentations that you've done relevant, or even things like what we're doing now. If you're a subject matter expert in a particular area, things that you've spoke of, written about, or presented on, those can all be added to LinkedIn. I think people don't realize the amount of things that you can do, even for creatives. I think even creatives should really start to look at LinkedIn as a viable place where people are looking for candidates. It doesn't matter whether you're a producer or a accountant. It's a great place to present your work in a different manner versus the resume itself. And then, of course, I can't speak enough about social media.
Mm-hmm.
Again, going back to we're in the pandemic world, our new normal, everything is social and everything is virtual. So find ways that you can incorporate that into your resume.
Mm-hmm.
How can you bring your resume to life in other platforms, whether it's, Facebook. I mean, I've found candidates on Facebook through niche groups that people have created, for example, people of color. Shout out to Hugh, people of color. Yeah, people of color in media, I believe. I know I didn't say that right, but it's a page that has almost 10,000 followers of people that are of color in the media industry. So when I'm looking to diversify my candidate flow, that's one of the first places that I go to.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'll probably go down a little bit of a tangent, but just to always think about diversifying the way that you present yourself on paper, but also virtually, especially with this new world that we're in now, where you're expected to have skills that mirror the environment that we're in now.
And I'd also add, to tag on to what Debbie just said, is you should still be thinking about being professional, right? And taking those opportunities to be professional. Just because we're in a virtual world right now, you should still dress up. You should still have on a suit. You should still, even if it's from the top up, you should still be professional for those virtual meetings. And I would also add, putting buzzwords on your resume is important, right? So if it's a specific company, organization that you're going after or that you are interested in, look up the words that are important to that company. Look at their mission statement. Look at the things that they're going after, and maybe truthfully add those buzzwords to your resumes, right? So that those buzzwords can stand out as something a recruiter like Debbie or myself or hiring manager may say, oh, this is the direction that we're going. And they have these buzzwords in that resume. Mm-hmm. And I'll also second the fact that metrics is really important. So selling yourself on the things that you've met, right? The goals that you've met and the metrics that you've hit is really important. That stands out as well.
Definitely. And I guess, how would you say for people who aren't currently in media, who want to transition into media, like what are things that they can do to stand out?
I would definitely say to start to do your research on the area of media that you want to enter into. Take inventory on the transferable skills that you already have that you could immediately apply to that. Because let's face it, especially now, and I'm going to be so real, especially now, we are in a place where one, the amount of job opportunities are very minimal. So that means you're up against a lot of competition. So you have to really stand out in terms of your skill set. And especially if you're applying for big name companies like Viacom, CBS, or any other big name brand. But just to start and being realistic and to make sure that you are considered a competitive candidate, you must have the transferable skills. How can you gain the additional skills to be a credible candidate or competitive candidate? Maybe volunteer your time for free at a small, production station, or start your own production. Again, the things that the millennials have that I did not have when I was looking for a job or when I was looking for an internship is everything is at your fingertips on the internet. You can teach yourself how to use Photoshop, all these different tools that they have. So teaching yourself some skill sets, investing in yourself, investing in different softwares that can teach you certain skill sets as well. So in addition to taking, of course, courses that will amp up your skill set in that area, but definitely use the resources around you. So if you want to be a production assistant, but you're in finance right now and you haven't actually done anything tangible in that area, you have a friend that has a camera, you know how to write, the other person is creative, they come up with the idea, bring it all together, put it out on the internet, and look at that, the access that you have already created. And now potentially, if it's interesting, someone may be looking at that and sharing it, and that's how things go viral. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Issa Rae. She's on HBO right now because of her webisodes that would be on YouTube. And that all started from probably zero budget. She had a camera, she had friends that could act or sort of act, and look at her now. So just always don't forget about the resources that you currently have and build from that, and use your circle and your squad, so to speak, to help you get to that next spot, you know, and create the circle that you wish to be around. You know, don't limit yourself or the people that you are in contact with. You know, you want to be around people that do X, then you need to align yourself with those folks as well.
For sure.
Ditto.
Sure. Yes, literally, Debbie hit it like right on the head.
Right, exactly. I just shared the Facebook group.
Oh, you did?
Yes, people were asking for it.
It's in the chat. So if you're looking for the Facebook group, it's in the chat.
Perfect.
That's good to know, because I didn't even know about that Facebook group. I'm definitely going to look into it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So they use it a lot. Initially, when I first joined the group, I think it was maybe a couple thousand people, less than 5 for sure. And now I know they're definitely up to at least 10. And it was like a great way of exchange for folks of color in the industry or trying to get into the industry, that would exchange job opportunities, as well as say, hey, I'm looking for X. Like I need a DP or a cameraman or a writer, a producer, or a PA. And these are from regular folks. Some are smaller companies, and some you see now, a lot of bigger companies are posting in there as well, saying they need a freelancer or a full-time job. So I actually post when I know I have an opportunity that I think would be viable for that group. And most of the folks in there are creative as well.
Yeah. But, you know, you should be definitely on groups and part of different organizations like a Name It.
Exactly.
LinkedIn has tons of groups. You know, you look for a group for anything that your professional experience is in. And there are also groups on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on, you know, all those places, LinkedIn, everywhere you go, social media has groups. So you should definitely have done some research. You have time now, we're all home, to really look for those groups and get involved with those groups, because those are the groups that you can make connections with. Debbie and I are part of a lot of different organizations. We go to a lot of different events. We're involved in a lot of different things in groups, because we get to meet a lot of people in those groups and in those meetings. And that's the things that you should do. And now you can do it virtually. Everything is virtual, right? So you have the opportunity to meet those people where they are. You know, Debbie always says, meet people where they at, right? So you should meet these people where you are, where they are, and really try to spark up some type of conversation. And, you know, this is the time to spark up those conversations, because you don't have to be in their face, right? You don't have to do this face to face anymore. You can do this via Zoom, phone, you know, any virtual platform. LinkedIn is our Bible. Like LinkedIn is everything. LinkedIn is where you want to do everything professionally, and everyone that's a professional is on LinkedIn. So this is the opportunity to really reach out to them and ask them questions, see if there's time for them to give you a quick chat. You know, people are more open now to do that, right? We're in a time where people are like, oh, I need to help. Right? I need to be there for someone. I need to help people with opportunity. So this is the time to take advantage of that and really identify where you want to go, who you want to meet, and ask some questions and be part of those groups.
I think especially if you're an introvert as well, and if networking doesn't naturally come to you, like going into a room and introducing yourself in a room full of folks that you find intimidating, this is a great way to kind of start the process, baby steps, by doing a lot of things, not in person, but virtually, whether it's through an introduction of an email and introducing yourself, or, you know, in another way. But it's definitely a great time for all you introverts out there.
And believe it or not, I'm an introvert.
Wow, would never guessed.
But
the evolution of an introvert.
Right. I am. But because I'm, you know, when you're passionate about what you do, so this is a perfect example. When you're passionate about what you're doing, what you're doing, what your profession is, and what you want to do, you step out of yourself because you're passionate about it, right? It's something innate in you where you're like, okay, I may be nervous or I may be an introvert, but I want to step out of this because this is what I really want to do.
Exactly.
And I become creative. You become creative in how to do that, right? This is the time to be innovative. This is the time to be creative.
Yep.
If you want to really look for new opportunities and really think of like, how can an entry-level professional get opportunities? This is the time, right? Think of creative ways, think of creative things, create creative new ways of doing things. Take an opportunity of this virtual world that we're in right now and step outside the box and think of new and creative way of doing things.
And Michelle, I don't want to take us all the way off course because I know you have a couple more questions to ask, but I see a question in there that I really want to answer because it's so relevant and it's such a great question that I feel needs to be answered by Cooper Marshall. How should we go about starting conversations with people we connect with in the industry on LinkedIn?
That's a great
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a way. Because there are a lot of ways that you're not supposed to. And I get more often than not, I get a lot of more often than not, we get the ways that you're not supposed to. So for example, one of the pet peeves that I have is when people enter my inbox with a, hey, very informal as if they know me. Number two, it's what do you have for me versus what do I have for you?
Right.
And sometimes the way that message comes across is as if we are headhunters for these folks. They haven't looked at the job postings. They have not decided where they would like to be. They haven't given me any specifics around the job opportunity, their background. They're just like, hey, I'd love to see what you guys have for me. Oh, so now I'm your headhunter. And as you can imagine, just imagine getting 35 of those emails per day.
Right.
I would literally be working for these candidates for free just to find them the opportunity. So first I'd have to actually look at their resume, review their resume, see what job they would even align with, see what I might not even be working on, not even in my wheelhouse,
right.
And then send them a list of jobs. So that's not what you do. What I would suggest is, one, if you are interested in connecting with folks via email, and even still, this does not guarantee your response because we get inundated with emails literally minute by minute. Maybe if we were a smaller company, it wouldn't be in such excess and the volume wouldn't be that high, but we literally get bombarded with emails on a regular basis, day to day, especially because Nikita and I, we do a lot of things like this, like panels. So right after this, we'll probably get 25 or 40, but again, sometimes I try my best to work through them, but I can't answer everyone and I can't meet with everyone. I can't talk to everyone. So that's why I'm saying this, in a public platform is, definitely have a succinct, short and clear message, what you would like to get out of it. What can you give and provide in terms of your skill set and the service that you're able to share with that company? How are you an asset? What are the type of jobs that you're looking for? What are you doing now? And what have you done to get to that next step that you're asking us for in terms of an opportunity? But just sliding in my inbox and saying, what do you got for me today is not going to work. Because I skip past those. I don't even respond to those. Honestly, I don't respond because now I'm taking too much of my time to now have to basically work for you. And it doesn't quite work that way.
I would start even before that. Let's look at your resume and do your skills and experience match the jobs?
Absolutely. Exactly.
Right. Because there's a lot of people who apply or contact us via LinkedIn and say, I'm interested in this role. Can you please submit it? Submit me or submit my resume. Do you qualify for that? Let's be honest. Don't just apply to apply because you need a job. We understand, and that's our responsibility, and that's what we're passionate about, is finding people their jobs, right? But don't just apply to just anything if you don't fit the qualifications, right? Because that puts a negative connotation on you and on us, because we're going to push away and not pay attention to your resume. Apply for what you're qualified for. And if you're unsure, be honest. This is my resume. This is a job I'm looking for. Let's start with hello, right? Not hey, not hey. just say hello. Let us know who you are, the job you're looking for, and what, if you're unsure if your resume meets this qualification, we'll tell you. We'll definitely be upfront with you and tell you. And then we'll gear you towards the right direction. Maybe you should do this, or maybe you should reach out to this person, or maybe I can take your resume and push it over here, right? So those are the proper way of doing things. We get contacted on LinkedIn by hundreds of people, and we can't get to everyone. But if you stand out, if you approach us professionally, and if your skills and qualifications are a match, we're going to reach out to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And I think he has a follow-up question, like, should they include their resumes in these?
Sure, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. Definitely. So I guess, what would you say are like some tips for people who are starting roles virtually? Like, you're not like connecting with your team, like you don't have that like inhuman connection, especially being a person of color. Like, it's already hard to get into these big companies. Like, how do we onboard virtually?
Got it. So that's actually what we're working through right now. Literally, over the last month and a half, we've been onboarding people virtually. I usually am a part of the onboarding team where I'm actually in a room facilitating new hire orientation with employees. But because it's so brand new, the actual team that runs that program has been taking over the virtual side. Yeah, so I actually haven't had an opportunity to onboard people virtually. But what I can imagine is one, like the first couple of weeks, you want to establish a routine. You want to wake up the same time every morning, just as you would if you were physically going to start to commute to your office, because you don't want to be, you don't want to blur the lines where you don't know when is work time, when is my break time, and when is my off time, where I am off the grid and I literally need to disconnect and be with my family, or do the priority, handle the priorities that you need to when you are actually at home. So that's a hard balance to find when you're literally in the same space for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're like, am I doing yoga right now, or am I signing into this Zoom meeting? So definitely create breaks in the day for yourself. Official lunch break, create a lunch break. I have slots that I have. This is my lunch time. And I always had that even when I was physically in the office, because I need that time, that buffer, in order to get myself back together, to do my notes, do my recap of my interviews, things of that nature. So whatever it is that you have to do to like download throughout your day, especially when you're not in meetings, to actually do physical work, create that time frame. And I hope I'm answering the question the right way, because you said kind of like preparing yourself and like how to acclimate yourself to the virtual world. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind off the bat. And then probably schedule meetings with people so that you can get to know each other one-on-one, like maybe do 30-minute meeting requests for maybe like your team members. That is something that most likely your manager will probably set up for you anyway. But if that isn't happening, proactively do that for yourself, because you want to make sure that you're going to build a relationship with these people that you're not going to be physically around to see and speak to every day. So if you end up having phone calls with them, at least you'll have had that time to get a chance to know them, get a feeling of them, see their body language, their facial expressions, and get an idea of like who are your teammates. Those are the first things that come to mind off the bat. Nikita,
I was going to ditto the same thing. Setting up 20, 30-minute meetings with your new team individually. I'm sure they're going to have team meetings as well to introduce you and to include you into new things and integrate you into the new team. But setting some time up with your team one-on-one, 15 minutes, 30 minutes is a great way of doing that. I'm kind of a researcher on people, so I would probably look up my team members as well, like look them up on LinkedIn to see what their background is and see how long they've been in the company and see what what they're interested in and what, how do they influence, or what impact do they have on the company and the organization, right? So look up what your team members have done or where they are. That's a good way of kind of knowing them without asking too many detailed questions. And I would also take time to really learn about the company, listen to, if the company is having, meetups, or if they're having a discussion, or all companies are doing town halls now, right? So I would definitely take that opportunity to kind of really learn the company and find out as much as I can. You can find out a lot about organizations now, as all the way down to what their lunchrooms look like, right? So you can definitely look into all those things and kind of find out the company and what the workflow is, and what do they do off hours, and what kind of events they do, or what kind of educational opportunities they offer. So that's what you can do now. You have that time and you have the resources, and everything is virtual and everything is online for you to do that.
Nice, definitely. Well, that covers all of my questions. We can get into the questions from the people in the audience now. I could just like read through a couple of them. Sure. And yeah, so we have Yvette. She asks, her question is how to best present oneself to management and let them know that one has stepped up for future promotion so you're not overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would definitely say, it starts out with the tangibles. I think a lot of people just assume that because you've been a certain place for a certain amount of years that you're automatically entitled to a promotion, and that's not necessarily the case. You have to show that you are doing your job and that you're capable of that next step. And ask them pointedly, what are some of the things that I need to get me to that next step? If it's not, if it doesn't feel realistic to you, then you may have to pivot and try to see what might be the next direction I need to go in. But also come and after you've had that conversation and they've created like some sort of plan for you, hopefully, you could come back and say, okay, well, these are some of the milestones that I've hit. How do you see me, meeting up to these goals, and, try to see if there's any tangible timeframes that can help that person get to that next step as well. But don't automatically assume, and don't expect people to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, here's your promotion because you're so amazing. Sometimes that happens, and most often than not, it doesn't happen. So make sure that you are always putting yourself in a light where you are going to be an asset to that team. That team, they feel your presence. They know that you're that person that they can rely on. You're dependable. You go above and beyond. You're a team player. But have tangible items that you could present to your supervisor to have that conversation. But don't just walk in there without any examples and why. You need to know the what, the why, and the how. Right. But don't just make that as an expectation. Right. Unfortunately, I know a lot of our younger folks, they're very eager to get to the next step. As soon as they walk in the door, they're already asking about when is the next promotion. But, first, have you outdone your learning capacity in the current position that you're in now? Right. Have you already started to take on responsibilities that would already move you into that next stage anyway? And if you have, then that's when I feel that you are prepared to ask that question of, am I ready? Or if I'm not, what are the tangible items that I need to start to check off? And how can you help me as my manager to get me there?
Right. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to follow that. We work so in touch with each other. We have the same answers.
I know. Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, ditto what Debbie said. Metrics, make sure you can present metrics to your manager. This is how I did this, and this is what I've accomplished, and this is the ROI on how it has helped us, as a team or as an organization. What do I need to do to get to that next step? What does that next step look like? How can I proactively get there? Do some things that, that next step looks like to you, right? Mm-hmm. What does that look like to you? If you see someone that's in that level, that's doing that job, have you spoken to them and asked them what traits they've had to gain to do that? Or what new responsibilities they've had to take on to do that role? Mm-hmm. Those are some of the things that you can think outside of the box with. Definitely speak with your manager. Definitely go over the details of where you are and what you're doing and how that next step looks like. because what you envision what that next step looks like may not look like that to your manager, right? So you should definitely have that discussion on what that is and what you can do to get there. And, go proactively, get involved in things, get involved in groups, get involved in organizations, get involved in different things that can help develop your skills and highlight your development as well, because it's not always just about what you do that's tangible, right? It's also about what you can bring that shows your growth, right? So those are the other things that you can bring to the table. Be a part of Name It, right? Be a part of, different organizations that can help you and enhance you, and you can get training and development. If your company doesn't offer it, you can get that externally as well and bring those tools. What do you need to brush up on? What new skills do you need to acquire? Are some of the things that you need to think about to help you move forward into your next step in your next phase.
And if your current role isn't serving you now, do things outside of your current role as well to, promote yourself, as well. You want to make sure that you're still challenging yourself. So maybe if you're not getting it in your current position, then you create those challenges and you create those opportunities as well. I refuse to be stagnant. So I always try to do things that, make sure that it's stepping outside of my comfort zone or stepping outside of my day-to-day, where I'm pushing myself to learn more skills and add to my toolkit. I love to say that word, but it's so true. Do things that always add to your toolkit. Find a way to become a subject matter expert in what you do, no matter how you can do that, whether it's additional education or whether it's just being a thought leader in your space. Whatever you can do to add value to the field that you want to continue to grow in, then, do that. I mean, you don't need permission, from current department to do that, and highlight your skills, because other people are watching as well. Don't forget that.
Absolutely.
So we have a question from John. He says, "Hi there. I need to revamp my resume. Do you have any recommended resources?"
Revamp your resume. That's hard because we revamp.
I used to do that on the side a lot, but I had to bring it down a lot because I found myself all my free time was literally directed to redoing people's resumes, and that was the second job in itself. So I don't want to use myself as an example because yes, I don't want to use myself as an example, but they do have a lot of resume writers nowadays. If you Google resume writers and just make sure that you're looking at references, they have them all over. I do not have specific names of resume writers per se, but there are a bunch out there. And then also resources online where you can look at templates of resumes based on the industry, based on the title, that it can help. You can use that template to tweak and tailor to your resume. So sometimes you don't even necessarily need that professional help, especially if you can't afford it. If you're looking for a job and now you have to pay someone to fix your resume and you're like, well, I need money to fix my resume. So start with the resources that you have in front of you, branch out to those folks that you would have to pay. And then if you're able to afford an actual dedicated headhunter for you, then you can do that as well. Well, they will, in addition to help you with your resume writing, they will help you to source and find jobs and connect you with actual employers.
Right. I think also one great resource for recent college grads is your alum, right? Check out your alumni in your college, because there could be people that are part of that are already in their professional direction, that are already set up their professional lifestyle, that are, already on their path, and they may be able to help you. They may be able to give you some suggestions. They may be able to recommend you to someone. They may be able to even help you themselves. So, use your alum from your colleges or from organizations that you're a part of. We never think to ask from help with the people that we're with every day or the organizations that we're part of. I'm a perfect example. I never think to ask, oh, Debbie, can you help me with this, right? Because, you're so used to just going day to day and working with this person. But use your alums, ask your, people that you've gone to school with, who they're using,
Mhm.
what recommendations they've had, and reach out to your alums and see if they can help you.
Mhm. Absolutely. And if you're presently working as well, you can reach out to your HR representative to support you with that as well, because we're there to help our employees.
Yep.
So Tracy asks, how long do you recommend cover letters to be? Because there's a lot of conflicting advice online.
Honestly, I don't think it should be more than a page. And even more honestly, we don't require cover letters unless it's specified for a particular job in our particular industry. That is not something that is a requirement for the most part. Don't get me wrong. Some departments still require, and it's actually says it on the job description in the requirements to make sure that you add a cover letter. But a page, it shouldn't be more than a page, because at the end of the day, a cover letter is just explaining and bringing to life what the resume can't answer. It's also answering questions like a gap in your resume. So if you haven't worked for 2 years because you became a mom, or you had to take care of a sick family member, or you're making a transition from one career to the next. So they want to see, provide some context as to what made that shift. But otherwise, it's, we're really zoning in on the resume, the actual duties, your responsibility, how much experience you have, and what level you're at. And are you meeting those qualifications? Are they going to be able to perform this job that we're looking for? Can they fill that gap that we're looking for?
Right. Ditto again. Wow. I don't know what else to add to that, really. It's nothing more really to add. I'm trying to think of some creative thing to say. Like she said, we don't really use them in our industry. We don't really read them. I can say I recruit for communications, PR, and public affairs. In those instances, they do ask for those cover letters because they want to know how well you can write, right? Exactly. How well can you write a letter? How well, how are your writing skills? So you really have to gear, just like you can gear your resume towards specific jobs, you can gear your cover letter towards specific jobs and requirements. Again, in communications, PR, public affairs, you should have a cover letter because you need to prove and you need to give examples of how well you can write. But again, in our specific industry, we don't really require them.
Nice. Very good. So Marcia asks, what are some transferable and hard skills that are a must for the industry?
For our industry?
Yes.
The relationship building. I know that sounds really, it's not a hard skill, but it's necessary when you work in an industry like ours. You definitely need to be someone that can build relationships. You need to be a strong communicator. You need to be someone that can really interact across multiple and diverse people, teams, pods. So definitely someone that can, communicate and really build relationships is really important. Some decisions are made, in our lodge over lunch, or, in some of our meetings and refresh, our refresh areas, our little, what is it like?
A mini cafeteria, like a deli.
Yeah, it's like what is it, like a coffee house?
Yeah.
Everyone meets there. You go there at 3:00 and you see all these intense meetings going on, right? So it's really about, one of the skills I would mention is relationship building.
Most definitely.
So it's definitely important to have that because we are entertainment and media. So it's always about media, entertainment. We're still professional. We're still about our business. But it's definitely a place where you have to collaborate, and you have to be a team player, and you have to be able to work cross-functionally.
Yeah,
right?
in a very matrix organization.
Yeah.
The media industry is the same as any other company. We employ folks that work in corporate, just as any other company, like marketing and finance and HR and technology. So you're still going to need all those professional skill sets that you would to apply to a media company. When it comes to the transferable skills is, you know, how well do they particularly relate to that particular department that you're looking to transfer into? And then are you checking off those boxes in terms of the required qualifications for the roles? Because we hire people from all different industries, whether you're coming from consumer products to a law firm, and now you're just no longer having to be in a stuffy law firm. Now you're coming over to work for a for-profit company, and you may be you get to be a little bit more creative in how you are putting out your work in a legal setting. You know, you're not working in a courtroom, you know, it's very different. So we have a lot of folks that just want to see a different type of environment, or people that grew up loving media entertainment and want to apply their skill set in a more creative area. So it's just, how can you tailor that skill set to the media entertainment industry? I always say, you know, I missed my call and I should have been in front of the screen versus behind the screen. But hey, I still made it into the entertainment industry. And even though I do not work in a creative function, I have the pleasure of working with a lot of amazing creative people.
Right.
So I still get that same type of energy, you know?
And I always say I'm a creative.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be creating websites or I may not be creating promos, but I can identify the people who can, right?
Exactly.
Because I'm creative and because I always felt I needed to be in a creative role. So this is my opportunity to be around creatives and to be as creative as I can be. And if that means just identifying a creative, then so be it. I'm being creative.
Nice. So now we have another question. What will the interview process look like during the pandemic? Will online interviews be more prevalent? What are some tips that you can give candidates who are interviewing via video?
Oh, that's a great question.
Great question.
I would definitely say one, before, you know, provide yourself with some time in advance of the interview to prep your space and the location that you're going to be interviewing for, so that you're void of any distractions. Like I said, when I first got on, I had to feed my cat first before he started climbing on top of me to say, meow, meow, I'm hungry. So make sure that you're void of any distractions. Make sure you have good lighting, good sound, you know, so test the sound. You can always test your sound on Zoom. We do Blue Jeans for a lot of our video interviews. So if you're signing on to that, it's a web-based platform. Just test your audio in advance, test your camera in advance, so that you're not having to kind of fumble around once you first start. I would definitely make sure that you're prepared with some questions, just as you would if you were physically meeting with the person. Make sure that you are presentable and you're not in your bed and you're not like in a robe. We pay attention to the surroundings. We want to make sure that you're still treating this as a professional interview.
Right.
You know, I remember when I first started Viacom, well, it was called MTV Networks back then, and you know, we're the cool kids on the block, and you know, it's MTV and BET and so forth. So people would always ask me, so how do I have to dress for the interview? And I would say, like an interview. You know, you always at the end of the day want to put your best foot forward. So I don't care if we're virtual or I'm shaking your hand, I still want to see that you're taking it seriously. And we don't necessarily need to see you in a 3-piece suit, because especially because we're media, but we just want to see that your comportment, your demeanor, you're composed, and you're showing up. And especially if you're applying for an executive role, we want to see the executive presence is showing up and things like that. But well, then again, that's not actually this demo right here, but definitely presentation, speak clearly, you know, definitely try to pace yourself when you're talking. I need to remember that too, because sometimes I talk a little fast. But yeah, that's for the most part. And just be yourself. Try to just kind of shake the jitters off. I try to be as flexible as possible. I know interviewing is not easy. So I try to give my folks leadway when they're interviewing. I don't expect anybody to come in perfect. So yeah, that's kind of my tips.
Yeah, same tips. I mean, same thing. communication, lighting. I mean, before this Zoom, I turned this on and was like, is my lighting right? Is my volume right? So same tips, dress professionally, do a little research on the company, same tips, company, the person you're going to meet with, ask some questions. I think this is a great time for people like myself who are introverts as well, like we mentioned earlier, to really
practice,
really steps outside of yourself and sell and pitch yourself and tell your story and really talk about your skills and your qualifications, because you don't have that pressure of actually sitting inside that person's office or at their desk, right? You're in your zone, you're in your home, you're in your place where you should be comfortable, but you should still be professional, right? Mm-hmm. So take that opportunity to be in a comfortable setting, right, of your own home or wherever that may be, and use that energy to, really, really tell your story, talk about your skills, talk about your resume, talk about how adaptable you are in this time that we're in. Talk about how flexible you are in this time that we're in, because that's what's really going to sell now, right? Adaptability, and how those skills can transfer or work for that specific job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I had to plug in my laptop because it was about to die. I know we have a bunch of other questions, and we're running out of time, so maybe we can get through like one or two more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me go in. And of course, if your questions aren't answered, I'm sure Debbie and Nikita are feeling free to answer your questions on the side or later on. That should be fine. So someone asked, they put themselves as anonymous. They like to have a link of their work on the resume, as Nikita said, for creatives. But where would you suggest having it? On a website, Google folder, Dropbox? Like, what have you seen to be, I guess, the best in your experience?
All of those work. Right? They all work. You can put a link to a website, you can have Dropbox, as long as your Dropbox doesn't expire, those type of things that happen, because it may take some time to get to your actual resume. So all of those work. And I will second what Debbie said. LinkedIn has all of those qualifications now. You can almost do a mini movie on LinkedIn at this point, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely use LinkedIn as an opportunity to share your work as well. But all of those different sites work. You can definitely, it should be at the top. It takes Debbie and I 8 seconds to look at a resume and decide if we want to continue reading it or if we want to move on. That's how quickly it takes.
And actually, that is a statistic. It's not just our random.
Right, absolutely.
It's statistically proven that recruiters typically, on average, are able to quickly identify whether or not they're moving forward with a resume or not within 8 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Particularly because usually we're looking at hundreds of resumes per job. So as we're going through them, we literally have to be time sensitive about looking at resumes. So back to your point originally about making sure that you are qualified for a job. If you cannot say that I meet at least 7 to 10 of those required qualifications, or whatever number it is, yeah. At least 85 to 90% of the required qualifications, then you're probably not going to be considered as a competitive candidate for that position. You're probably going to meet the basic minimum requirements of that job, but wouldn't you want to be a competitive candidate for that job? Mm-hmm. So instead of expanding your energy by applying for 10 jobs across the board that you're only minimally qualified for, how about you zone in and apply for 3 jobs that you already know, wow, boom, boom, boom. If they see my resume, pretty sure I'm probably going to get an interview, right? Because I am meeting and checking off all those boxes of those required qualifications. And absolutely. Again, not saying that that's an automatic win, but that's going to provide a higher probability that you would be called on mm-hmm. when they're looking at resumes, right. For sure.
So it's important to have your links at the top of your resume, right? Have it where your information is, where your name is, where your email is. Have your link there, because the first thing we're looking at is the top of your resume, right? So you want to have your link there. I don't want to have to look through the resume to look for your link because I may miss it. So it's important to have it at the top of your resume with your name, with your email, with your contact information. That's where your link should be.
Agreed. Well, thank you, ladies, so much.
You know what? We do have time. I'm sorry to pop it. We do have time for a few more. We have time. I mean, there's so many questions, guys. If you don't mind hanging in with us for a little bit.
Sure.
There's some over here in the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat, Michelle, but I'll just ask one that I see right away. Do you think it's beneficial or necessary to identify yourself as a person of color when asked on your job applications?
I mean, I think you should do what you feel comfortable with doing. At the end of the day, we're going to hire the best qualified candidate for the position.
Right.
If you feel comfortable, we do have something on our job application that asks people to voluntarily identify, so self-identify.
Right.
We as recruiters do not see that though.
No.
So we wouldn't see you until we actually bring you in for an interview. So just to kind of clarify, you know, what happens on the back end versus the front end, we wouldn't know automatically that you filled out that form and what you have noted. And sometimes visually identifying, I could be wrong as well.
Right. A lot of times we're wrong visually identifying these days. You know, I echo that. I think that it's important, you know, it's such a fine line because you want to, you know, stand by your culture. You wanted to stand by who you are. And I don't think as recruiters, we make our decisions based, not I don't think, I know, we don't make our decision based on the color of your skin or where you're from. We base our decisions based on the skills you have, based on the experience you have, and if you're a match for the role that we have open. So we're not making our decision based on your ethnicity or any other thing that
okay, so we have should I go to the chat or the Q&A?
But we make those decisions based on the skills, based on
hey Debbie, Nikita, please give advice on how to follow up
for this job. If you're a match, and we identify the best
as you HR colleagues,
whoever that may be. It doesn't matter.
Oops, sorry, I was literally on mute this whole time. So hey, Debbie.
Actually, we hear you. Okay.
What?
I don't know what's going on, Michelle. But just to piggyback off of that, someone asked, as people of color, what guidance would you have for millennials that are entering the workplace who embrace their culture through ethnic appearances?
Hey guys.
As, for example, locks, braids, to navigate with interviews?
Oh, I would love to answer this question.
Go.
I want you to be your authentic self.
Exactly.
And if you're applying for a job at a company that doesn't accept your authentic self, that's not the company that you need to work at.
Exactly.
You should not want to work at a company that doesn't accept your natural self.
Exactly.
I do not wear my hair like this every day. This is when I want to do a little something different. I have the luxury and the pleasure of wearing my hair kinky as it wants to be on Monday through Friday. And you should have the same luxury as well. Do not hide yourself for anyone, professionally or personally, period.
Exactly.
Never. Years ago, when I thought that was something that you were supposed to do, I remember the days when I would slick my hair back in the tightest bun to hide my little kinks and my curls because I didn't know whether or not they would accept me. But honestly, why do I want to work for a company where I have to hide who I am or I have to pretend that I'm something I'm not? So don't do that. Don't do that. Go to a place that is going to accept you for you, and they're not going to see the dreadlocks. They're not going to see the kinky curls, and they're not going to see the braids when you're leading with that amazing experience, with how articulate you are in terms of articulating the skills that you have. I'm not saying articulate meaning, oh, wow, they're Black, they're so articulate. I mean, being able to show up and show out, so to speak, in terms of letting people know that you are leading by what you can bring to the table. And if they can't see that, then it's okay. We don't need to see them either.
Be your authentic self. Always, when you're applying for the job, when you're on the interview, when you're going through the different interview rounds, when you get the job, when you're working in the company, be your authentic self, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not being hired for what you look like or what your hair looks like. You're being hired for the skills and the experience that you bring to the table, right? So it's important that you show your skills. It's important that you show what you bring to the table when you're interviewing and when you're getting that job. I dressed up for you guys today with this hair. This is not every day, right? So it really is based on being your authentic self. And by me dressing like this today, I'm being my authentic self today, right? Tomorrow, I might look different, but I'm still being my authentic self. It's based on who I am and who I want to be and what I can bring to the table. So your decision should always be, am I qualified? Do I have the experience? Do I have the skills for this role? And like Debbie said, show out for showing what you have and what you bring to the table. It's not about your appearance at all. Yeah. And again, if they can accept you for that, again, that's not the company for you.
Exactly. And I say all that to say, at the end of the day, make sure that you are, well groomed, and you're not coming in there with like, anything that's going to detract from you personally in itself. Tone down the cologne or the perfume, because we don't want to be inundated with because I've been in meetings where people have too much perfume on, so things like that is probably more of a distraction. I don't really care about what color nail polish you have, but you will also want to be a little bit tame, especially depending on what industry you're in.
Right.
You want to dress for the audience that you're trying to capture. So if you're trying to work at a finance company, then you want to tone it down a little bit, because they're a little bit more conservative than like a media company. I remember when I started at Viacom 1,000 years ago, I was like, oh, okay, I can be a little bit flexible with how I dress. So I wore a suit, but I wore a tailored denim suit with a pop of color. So it was still very much professional, and it still aligned with the company and the culture, where they didn't look at me like, wow, I wonder if she'll even meld with this culture because she seems so rigid and tight or so super conservative, So just kind of look at where you're going. Does this mirror me and my values and my morals? And can I even identify with this group of people and what they stand for, things like that. But, just lead with your authentic self.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Professionally, but be yourself.
Yeah.
Let me ask you quickly about a question about resumes. Everybody always asks, how many pages can a resume be? And in what format do you think is the best? Word, PDF?
For this demo, we're talking about millennials. It shouldn't be more than a page, two the most. Honestly, as millennials, I really don't think that you should have more than
one.
Honestly.
I think one, honestly.
Yeah. Unless you're like in production and you have like a page of like credits. So a lot of the roles I work on, they may have a lot of credits for shows that they've worked on. So that in itself is a page already. So that I look at as a part of the resume.
Right.
But honestly, if you're in the workforce for less than like 5 to 10 years, I really don't think that you need to have multiple pages outside of that 1 to 2 the most.
Absolutely, I agree. Your additional pages may be, like Debbie said, a list of your accomplishments or productions you've been a part of, or it could be your work samples. It could be samples of, if you're creative, it could be samples of a project you worked on. But your resume doesn't need to be more than 1 page at this stage in your career.
Yes.
Someone
mentioned not just for millennials on the resume question. So of course, yes. So if you are a seasoned professional in your field, yes, it could be a little bit longer. I really don't want to see more than 2 to 3 pages. Then if you're really seasoned, honestly, you just remember this.
So how far back should they go? If you're seasoned,
I was going to say 7 to 10 years. Yeah.
I was going to say you do not have to put every single resume. I mean, you don't have to put every single job. You could truncate that too. And instead of putting your list of duties for each job, you can just highlight the name of the title and the company. And that's it, so that we know what you did previously. So you can say additional work experience, but that does not have to be laid out like a regular format for the rest of your resume. That's more because it's unnecessary and it's taking up a lot more space. So it really shouldn't be more than like 2 pages.
You only need 10 years. 10 years is all you need. If you want it, like Debbie said, if you want to add more past those 10 years, you could just kind of bullet point those work experiences and years to make it easy.
Exactly.
And someone asked a question, and this had actually happened to me before. They were interviewing, they were doing really good in the interview process, and then the company implemented a hiring freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to know how should they keep themselves relevant during that hiring freeze so they're not forgotten about? Should they keep reaching out? What should they do?
Well, I don't know if they heard the beginning of this panel, but one of the questions I actually answered that would fit perfectly with this question, and that is to stay relevant in the space that you are in. Make sure that you are keeping your skills up to date. You know, have a presence. Comment on articles. Send articles and tips to forums that they have like online, so people see your face, they see your presence, they see that you're active. Attend things like these. Ask questions. Connect with people virtually, through email, through social media. Follow relevant pages that are in your industry, so that you're also keeping up with the companies and their pages about what's happening, so that you know how to respond to the market as well. But definitely keep your skill set fresh, stay relevant, make a presence on social media. Remember, social media isn't just for fun anymore. People are monetizing the way they utilize social media. And you may not necessarily even be monetizing it, but you're branding yourself on social media. That in itself is staying relevant and top of mind to people and employers. I found people on social media as well because of the type of job that I was recruiting for, where that skill set was really necessary. So do not, sit around and kind of feel dejected about what's going on in the state. That doesn't have to be your reality. You're still, your job at that point should be making yourself relevant. And by all those different areas. Take a free course. A lot of places are offering free courses now. And talking about from top organizations and institutions now are offering free classes. So look for those type of classes. Just continue to sharpen, your tool.
Absolutely. So if you were in the process and you had gone through meeting a couple of people and you have been working with a recruiter and you had met the head of the team or the manager and some of the other people that make up the team, you can stay in touch with them.
Yes.
Right? You can continue to build the relationship you've established with them. I wouldn't say bombard them. I wouldn't say, stalk them, but, send them a note and say, I still want to express my interest in the role. Here's some of the things I've done that Debbie just mentioned, in the time since we've met. I'm still interested in the role. I'm still open for opportunities. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Follow them on LinkedIn. What are they doing, right? What are they into? Stay up on the trends of the company so and you're current with what's going on with the company and what changes they're going through with the hiring freeze, right? What are they making? What decisions are they making? Which direction are they going? But stay in touch with those people, because I've hired people that have stayed in touch with me, when we've had jobs on hold now, pause, and they've, stayed in touch with me. They've sent me articles. They've, sent me things that they've created. They've created a whole new website, or they created a whole new set of work samples, and they wanted to share that with me so that it could be updated in the system, right? So you want to do those things, especially if you had gone through several interviews and you've met with several people. That means you were kind of deep in the process, right? Exactly. So you want to keep established with the people that you've met. You don't want them to think that you're like, okay, hiring freeze, I forgot about this role, right? So definitely maintain that relationship, maintain your interest, let them know that you're continuously following what's going on with the company, send them articles, send them work samples. I don't suggest you bombard them, right? I don't suggest you do it every day.
Pace yourself. Yeah.
Right. So definitely pace that, contact, but that's something that you may want to do so you can stay top of mind. We have this thing we call pipeline.
Yes.
Right. Where we pipeline our candidates. So those top candidates that we don't have a role for right now, or because a job has been put on hold or on pause or on freeze, we keep that pipeline of candidate because we do go back to those candidates, those candidates that have stood out, those candidates that have really shown interest and that have great skills and great experiences to bring to the table. We remember you, right? Because you may have stayed in touch with us, right? And we've pipelined you. So it's important to do those things.
And I love to see some of the participants sharing tools and resources back and forth together right now. So I'm glad
they're dropping some good stuff in there. I'm like, I can't wait to dig into there.
Yeah, I'm glad they're helping each other. That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Do you guys think it's necessary to have a master's degree in this industry? Someone asked that.
Totally depends on the department or the specific field within our industry. So for example, there are still some teams within Viacom CBS, like certain finance areas where they want you to have an MBA, or certain corporate roles where they require you to have an MBA. But for the most part, we're really focused on your real life work experience. However, some jobs would want you to, at the very least, have a bachelor's degree, and we usually note that on the job description if it's a requirement. But we typically lead by years of experience and level of experience. So just pay close attention to the required qualifications and what they're asking for. If it's not asked for it, then you most likely don't have to have it. It's just always a plus in any industry. I don't need a master's in human resources management, but I received one because I personally wanted to further my education and have some, theoretical part of the HR skill set.
What I've noticed, it's important, and it is really job specific, right? Like Debbie said, it's really about which role and which job you're in. Some require things and some don't. Some require a bachelor's, some require a master's. It really depends on the role and the team and what they're looking for in candidates. What I've noticed though over time, and this is just specifically for us and our industry and our company, a lot of my hiring managers lately have been leaving off that degree required, right? Because they're really looking now at the opportunity for what someone can bring to the table, right? This may have been someone that's been an entrepreneur, right? Or someone that has created the next Facebook or has created the next big thing, and they didn't finish college and they didn't get a degree, but they have the skills, they have the experience to bring that to the table. So it really varies, right? From role to role, from requirement to requirement. It's always important to have a degree. So you should really look and see what that job description specifically asks for. Some may say you need to have a master's degree. Some may say you need to have a bachelor's degree. And some may say no degree required or not have a degree requirement on there.
And someone just asked, what is the best post-interview follow-up method? Is there a standard? Is there a best way? Could it be email, a personal thank you note, sending in some chocolates after?
It really depends. Again, I'm going to use communications as an example, right? So my communication and PR and public affairs hiring managers, sometimes they like a hard note. They like a follow-up thank you card or, a letter or a thank you. Again, it's about communication. So you should be able to write and you should be able to communicate effectively, right? So it really depends on, the hiring manager, the role. For me, I don't know for Debbie, but for me, email is fine for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you cards tend to pile up in my office, right? So an email is fine. If you want to send a thank you note, please feel free to do so. They're all welcome, but an email is fine.
And I would just also follow that up with, if you're going to send an email or if you're going to send something in writing, please check your grammar. Because sometimes I may not even see it, but my hiring manager will see that. And now you're X out of the process because they're like, wow, they couldn't even pay attention to detail in the interview process. Like, what will they do if they won't even take the time to double check what they're sending to us in the interview process when you're still being evaluated? So just be mindful of that. You know, check to make sure you have the right company, you have the right title that you're referring to, because especially if you're interviewing and you're active on the market with multiple companies, I've gotten people send me things like, hey, Google. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're not Google. So you can X yourself out the box for something so simple that you could have just crossed your T's and dotted your I's first. So just keep that in mind as well. But yes, we love thank you notes.
Absolutely.
Someone asked, can you talk about things that are not on your resume during an interview? Can those be brought to light?
For sure. That's what.
Absolutely.
For sure. I think, I don't know if Nikita, you do this or not, but I think that it should be 80-20. You should be talking 80% of the time, and the interviewer should only have about 20% of that conversation, which is asking pointed questions. But the questions I'm asking you, you should be able to elaborate from, like more behavioral based questions where I'm seeing your thought process. I'm seeing how you handled the particular situation when it happened, or hypothetically how you would have handled something. But for the most part, I'm asking you questions where you're providing me examples of a time that you did X, or you know when you learned from a particular situation, and what did you learn. So yes, absolutely. The interview is the time for you to bring your resume to life for me, and that is not going to be regurgitating what's on your resume. You're now bringing me color, and you're telling me a story about who you are, what you're capable of, and how can you bring that to us.
Exactly. This is your time to tell your story, right?
So brag on yourself.
So you should be telling your story when you get in front of one of us. You should be going through your resume and telling me the story of your work life, right? Of your experience, of your internships, of your things that you've done on campus, of all those things. This is your time to tell your story. This is the time to pitch yourself on everything that you've done. And especially if it's stuff that you're passionate about, right? So we want to see that passion. We want to see when we ask you a question about your experience or what you've done or why you're a candidate for this role, this is your opportunity to be passionate about it and really express it. Really tell us a story. I don't talk a lot in my interviews. I ask questions, and I'm looking for you to really, really, really tell me in detail why you did this, or how you did this, or what was that in school, who, what, where, why, when, right? You need to really be able to answer those questions and really build a story on it.
Absolutely.
And someone asked, in 8 seconds or less, what does a strong candidate look like to you?
I mean, it goes back to, has your resume answered the question that we're all looking to know is, are they qualified for this position? Do they meet the required qualifications? Can we see that person based on what the content is showing can perform this job without having to train this person in addition to, or having to, I guess, sacrifice certain skill sets that we asked for and they didn't have it. So to me, that's like the first thing I could think of is, are you meeting the required qualifications? And then of course, maybe you're also coming with some layered skill set. So in addition to that, you also have something complementary that we didn't even ask for, but we know it's really, really awesome that you have, because it complements that particular field, or they go hand in hand, or they work closely with that particular department, and you actually worked in 2 different departments. So for example, in production, you may have now, like, for example, I do a lot of production management jobs. So you may have worked in the finance department because they do budgets on a day-to-day basis. So production managers have to be good with money. They have to be able to balance budgets, handle them, and make sure that they are in line with budget. So in addition to production experience, it's great to see if you had that finance experience coupled with the production. So it could just be giving us a little bit more than we've even asked for me.
Right. I think you should understand that if we've called you based on your resume, you already have something that's standing out, right? So if we actually contacted you to come in and interview, it's because you have something on your resume that's already standing out to us, right? So it goes back to the last question. Okay, so you got in the door based on being a strong candidate with your resume. So now you have to be a strong candidate when you meet with us, right? Mm-hmm. What do you bring to the table? How are you bringing it to the table? How are you answering those questions that we need? What do you know about the company? You know, all those different things really show that you're a strong candidate. You've done research, right? You're up on the trends. One of the questions I ask is, why are you the best candidate for this role, right? So that's your opportunity to really pitch and really go in to show that you're that outstanding candidate. Mm-hmm. So again, we've already called you in. So that means that your foot is already in the door. So we've seen something in your resume that makes you a great candidate.
Very good. And then someone asked, podcasts are fairly new. Is that okay to add to your resume as, you know, content that you're working on?
Definitely. Absolutely. Just another form of highlighting your skill sets and your experience. And we are now seeing you in a setting where we're hearing your voice, we're hearing you communicate, and you are basically kind of showing us what you're capable of. So right. Absolutely, especially if it's in a more creative field as well.
Right. It's almost like a visual or digital resume, right? Because we see you, we see how you communicate, we see how you think on your feet, we see how you're being aware of trends or what's going on based on your topic. So it's definitely something that you should put on your resume.
Good. Okay, and then we're going to ask you very quickly, what advice would you give to college grads coming from a non-traditional media tech degree looking to transfer to a tech-based role in media? So I guess non-traditional roles looking to get into a tech-based role in media. I'm not sure what a tech-based role in media would be.
So basically they want to transfer their skills, in other words.
Yeah, I guess they got a degree in one thing and maybe they want to kind of pivot into media, tech media.
Most people are not working. Most people who graduated with degrees are not working in that field, first and foremost. Most people are not. It goes back to what Debbie said earlier. What were you mentioning about, transferable skills, going to being where it is, right? So if that is an area that you're really focused on, are you involved in those groups? Are you going to those type of organizations that sponsor that? Have you connected with people that are actually doing that type of work? Have you gone on informationals? Have you done research? Are you up on the trends of what those people are doing, or if that field specifically is doing? And how can maybe you can volunteer in areas where you can pick up those skills, right? So how can you pick up those skills and learn that? Meeting people, talking to people, joining groups, volunteering, being in the know of what's going on in those areas.
I love it. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap up. I'm looking to see if I missed anybody. We had so many questions. You guys gave us so much great information.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
I'm gonna pop back on here, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And speaking of volunteering, NAMIC New York always needs volunteers. Even though we're in a pandemic, we always need people for social media, marketing. So I think, this is a perfect opportunity to do that. If you aren't in the space right now, you'll be able to connect with so many people who are in the media space. NAMIC New York has 800 members alone. We have 4,000 members all throughout the country. We have a SoCal chapter, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta. So, media is everywhere. So I think the organization is a perfect start to that. And it's a stepping stone to, being able to potentially find, your next role within this org. So, I highly encourage you, to reach out to myself, Radia, the ladies that are on the line as well, just giving that brief message of, hey, first off, don't just say, okay, like, hi, that's it, say, hey, you were on the Zoom call tonight, we heard, about what you were saying, and phrase, what you're going to say in that sort of direction.
Absolutely.
I'm on LinkedIn, Debbie Douglas, so you can find me there.
I think I'm LinkedIn with a lot of people here, but I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can definitely find me there. I do.
Yeah, we post a lot of relevant.
I've been able to give back to people more now than I have been in the past. So again, use this opportunity that we're in, to meet those mentors, contact those hiring managers, those recruiters, take this opportunity to reach out to Debbie and I now that we have more time to get back to you.
Michelle, are you still on the line? Did you want to say some words? I'm not sure what happened to Michelle. She was there, or did she?
The blessing and curse of technology.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It can go one way and it can go another way.
Right.
Well, actually, I did a panel, I think 2 weeks ago, and I, as the panelist, got dropped off of the call because my Wi-Fi was like, good night. And it took me almost 10 minutes to get back on. So, you never know with technology.
Right.
Well, we're getting so many comments. Everyone is saying thank you. It was great information. It was much needed. This really fit into what is going on right now, and we just all really need this type of information. So I want to thank you again for taking the time out.
Thank you.
To share with us. We really do appreciate it. You guys are always so supportive of NAMIC, and we really, really appreciate it. Guys, you have gotten some great information. You have to pay for information like this. Let me tell you.
Right.
You heard what he said. They have opportunities for volunteers. Go find them now.
Volunteer. This is the opportunity to volunteer.
Yep.
And connect while we're on this chat. You see name, you see Radia's name, that's a way into NAMIC, and that's be able to connect with people, not just at Viacom, but I guess for AMC jobs, jobs, ABC jobs, NBC. There's so many people at all these different companies that NAMIC because they sponsor NAMIC.
Exactly.
just seeing that national sponsorship, and then it comes down to the local level, you know, that's a connection right there, right off the bat. Networking is essential. This is a great time to build your networking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Team up. So yes, definitely everyone. I want everyone to please be safe and have a great evening. Continue to wash your hands, quarantine,
exactly.
Stay inside. We're starting to see a little bit of light and things are getting better. So just hang in there, everyone. I just want everyone to be safe, and we will connect soon. We'll see each other in person. Absolutely. But in the meanwhile, if you need to reach out, I will include in the link Debbie and Nikita's LinkedIn information.
Thank you.
Include in the thank you email. I'm sorry, I said it. I will include their LinkedIn information if you want to connect. Carvel and I are always open to everyone. So you guys, thank you again. Everybody has hung on. Let me tell you, almost everybody who signed on, they're still here. They're like, more. No one has dropped off. So everyone have a great night. And
take care, everybody.
All right, take care. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.